Hey everybody, we're back today and with JT from JT's Record Room, Reno, Nevada. Check his channel out. He's got the good stuff as he always does. Great to have him here. JT, how you doing today?
I'm doing really good. Thanks, Rich.
Great. Today we've been mulling over a couple of subjects and we decided to take on one of our favorite artists, and that's Jackson Browne, great singer-songwriter from predominantly the 70s. He's done later work, but his core work is in the early to throughout the 70s. And we just wanted to touch on Jackson Browne, an underrated artist, given what he's done in his career. And we're going to go through one album at a time. We're going to start with his debut album from the early 1972, Saturate Before Using, also known as Jackson Browne's debut. Now, in the late 60s, Jackson took a trip to Greenwich Village, rode cross country with a couple of buddies of his, got involved with Tim Buckley's band, and did some work with the singer Nico, wrote These Days at age 16, I believe. And then things weren't really taking off for his solo career. Comes back to LA, and it was right at the height of the singer-songwriter movement. It was just taking off. Crosby, Stills, and Nash, of course, were huge. James Taylor, Joni Mitchell, Carole King, Cat Stevens, all those folks were dominating the airwaves. Jackson Browne gets a record contract on Asylum Records, David Geffen's new record company, and this is the album that is the result. Jackson Browne, released in January of 72. He wrote most of this stuff and recorded it in 71. So solid album, one of the best debut albums I've heard personally. And we're going to elaborate on that and tell you guys what it means to us personally. JT, what do you have on Jackson and how you first came into play with him and all that stuff?
Well, and Saturate Before Using, I know you know this because we've talked about Jackson Browne and we both love Jackson Browne so much. It's really for Jackson. I mean, he's like the whole deal, the whole package. And I'm not I'm a music guy. As a kid, I always tuned into the guitar or the drums. But when I first heard Jackson Browne in 1972, and I realized I was 15 years old. I just turned 15, and it was such a heavy impression on me to hear. We thought it was called Saturate Before Using, but really it's Jackson Browne, Los Angeles, California. And what's we're old enough to know that it's a desert water bag. And when you drive through the deserts of California, Nevada, and Arizona, in the old days, if you're driving your 1972 big old Chevy or Ford car, you'd put a desert water bag on the front of your hood because the temperature is 100-degree temperatures. Your car, if it overheats, you have the water bag. And I used to have my original. I have the original album. I have about 4 of these actually, and my OG copy has the burlap sack. Remember that? It had the burlap sack on it. So I still have that, and it has my initials. I used to do a JT with a circle and an arrow around it. And, little. So like a lot of us, we put our names on our records, so our friends wouldn't borrow them or whatever, or just so we had ownership on them.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting, what you said about Jackson going to New York and he wrote These Days, and Nico, of course, he got into the Andy Warhol scene in Greenwich Village. But when he came back to LA, he sent a demo to David Geffen, and around 1970, and it was Jamaica Say You Will. And David Geffen was, of course, if I got a demo from Jackson Browne with Jamaica Say You Will, and I was a record guy or producer, I would want to do something with it. So David Geffen shopped around for a label for Jackson and couldn't find the right fit. So what did David Geffen do? He started Asylum Records.
Exactly.
Isn't that cool? And so he started a label just to get Jackson on there. And I I don't think Jackson was the first artist on Asylum. That's a good trivia. Guys, look that up. There's somebody, I don't think it was Jackson. It was somebody else.
Somebody obscure, I think.
You're right. Yeah. Oh, it was that uh Dylan from Noble Records. He's a huge fan of her. Stills, Julie Stills, or
Judy Sill.
yes, Judy Sill was the first one
Yeah,
signed. That's it. Oh, we did it. We did it.
Judy Sill. I remember she had an untimely death too. I think she ended up killing
Yeah,
herself or something. Yeah,
she was the first to be signed by
yeah,
Geffen, by David Geffen. So, the album was put out, and that's how Jackson's first album came about. So that's what I wanted to add.
cool. And what we've done is we're each taking 3 different songs from this album. We're going to highlight what we like about them lyrically, musically, just what they brought to the table. And I'm going to start with the first cut on the album, and that is Jamaica Say You Will, which JT was talking about as the demo. This is a great way to lead off it. It's typical of Jackson. It's got the introspective lyrics, personal story. It's basically he's falling in love with a young girl. He uses water as a repeated theme in this album, not only on Jamaica Say You Will, but Rock Me on the Water. And there's another song from Silver Lake. He's got that water thing going on throughout as a repeated metaphor in his lyrics. And I love this line here. Help me find a way to fill these empty hours. Come again tomorrow. He goes down to the beach. He meets the girl. Her father is a captain on the sea. Spend these endless hours until our waters have run dry. Again, the water theme comes into play. He's just musically, there's a guitar solo on here by Clarence White, who
Oh, yeah.
really brings it together. JT knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And Clarence White was a session musician who played with Joe Cocker and Linda Ronstadt and
The Birds.
the Byrds. He was a friend of, I believe, of Graham Parsons, was he not?
And Gene Clark.
And Gene Clark. And eventually, unfortunately, Clarence, by 1973, would pass away. He was hit by, I believe, a drunk driver. And so a year after this album, he's no longer with us. So
Yeah.
what Jackson Browne does, he hires the best session musicians. You're talking about Russ Kunkel on drums, Lee Sklar on bass, and he fills in the blanks with these other guitarists. Jackson, of course, being a piano-based musician, so he's hiring guitars. And later, David Lindley, who will become his right-hand man or sideman for the bulk of his career, would come into play. But in the beginning, you have people like Clarence White who really helped him out, and others that we're going to hit on as we go along. But Jamaica Say You Will, a beautiful song. I love the melody. I love the vocal delivery that he gives. It's so poetic. It's a typical Jackson Browne song in the early days. So that's where we want to start. JT, what are you going to highlight next?
Well, the 3 songs I chose to do for his first debut is A Child in These Hills. And a wonderful song. And the production in the studio, I believe this record was done at Sunset Sound in Studio One. Now that's a huge studio. Some of the greats have been recorded there. And A Child in These Hills is just so sonically and acoustically beautiful. It opens with his acoustic guitar, Jackson. And I got to add, he's a great acoustic guitar player as well.
Oh, yeah.
He plays electric, but really his forte are all of his beautiful acoustic guitars.
Mhm.
And A Child in These Hills, I just want to throw a lyric out there. One of the real big hooks of lyric is, for me, is, who will show me the river and ask me my name?
There's the water again, the river.
I know. And this song, I mean, he's an artist that it just stirs emotion in me. And, JC from the Flip Side brought something up with his interview with Rachel. And he says, I I want to hear music that stirs emotion in me. He said that in that interview. And it just, a light went off in my head and I thought, you know what? I really need to get back to my roots with singer-songwriter. And Rich, when I first started watching you, you just were definitive about it. Like, this is what I like. I like singer-songwriters. Paul Simon, you put them all up there. And you know what? You're exactly right. Paul Simon is right up there with the Beatles in my book.
He is.
And Jackson Browne, I mean, clearly. But back to the song. This song is so cool. I mean, it has a conga, part in it. Under the Falling Sky has a really cool conga part in it as well. But the song ends with this the coolest Lonesome Train harmonica
Yeah,
solo at the
I love
end
that.
that is just so amazing, with Russ Kunkel accentuating it on his drums. And you guys, if you're like watching this and like Jackson Browne, oh come on, that's that dad rock. No, if you smoke pot, spark one up, put on a Jackson Browne album, and you're going to see what me and Rich are talking about. It's going to open doors in your mind. I mean, seriously. And really, A Child in These Hills, one last thing, it's a song about, it's really a song introspective of, who am I? Who are you? Who am I?
Exactly.
And it's also when Jackson had a very great relationship with his father. His father was a very supportive, and Jackson played trumpet originally as a kid. His dad says, no, you're going to play trumpet. He wasn't, a heavy-handed dad, but he says, give it 2 years and then you could pick the instrument you want. Well, after 2 years, Jackson chose guitar. But it's really about a song, A Child in These Hills, because here's a child and he's in these hills. The hills are when you leave home,
Right.
when you're 18 and when you're out on your own
Right.
and you're no longer in the home of your father. And that's what he states in this song. And it's just really about leaving home all on your own. Yeah, love that
Very
song.
good. That's a great song. I loved how you hit on that ending part with the train too. That's fantastic. Love
Yeah.
it. All right, the third song is the one I'm going to pick on here, and that's "Song for Adam." This
Oh,
is might be my favorite song on the album. We'll figure that out as we go. But I talked about him leaving LA and going east. He rode in a car with a buddy of his named Greg Copeland and Adam Saylor, who was a friend of Greg's. So they're driving to New York together, and eventually Adam and Greg take off for Europe. And Jackson stays in New York to start his music career. But this song for Adam is about Adam Saylor, who goes to Bombay, India, and he either jumps or falls to his death in what is debatable whether it's an accident or a suicide. And this is basically what this song is about. It's written for a friend who may or may not have committed suicide, and he addresses it directly in the lyrics. He says, "The story's told that Adam jumped, but I'm thinking that he fell." He wants to believe that his friend did not kill himself. He's thinking that he fell and just had a tragic accident. He was only in his 20s, obviously. He was a young man. And this time he's using a candle. I sit before my candle. There's so little light to find my way. So he's, through hope, he's got the candle on, but eventually the candle's sort of fading and blowing out as the song moves on. It's just a beautiful song. His destination, India, and I have none at all. So he's sort of aimless, not sure where his direction was. Jackson, that is, or Adam, he wanted to see the world, and unfortunately, it led to his demise. I love these personal songs like this with the heartfelt lyrics, and he just spells it out beautifully. And what Jackson Browne does the best is he's always talking about the human condition, what we're looking for, our struggles in life, love, loss, emptiness, empathy, all the things you think about, regret, redemption. He hits on all of that through these
yeah.
albums, and a lot of spirituality as well. Even though I don't have any idea how strong a religious man Jackson Browne is, he always gives you a little bit of it in
Yes, he
his
does.
songs.
Yeah.
and it's always beautifully done. And hope is always a optimism somehow, even though he's talking about a downer subject here. He's got that candle going, like
That's right.
it's an important again metaphor in the song. He's such a literate artist. He's poetic in everything he does. One of the best.
Yeah, that's
But
why
that
the women love him.
the women love him. The guys wish they could look like him. All that stuff. He had that cool, laid back, casual, the hair, the look.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a good looking guy, and
Yeah.
he was perfect for that time period. He really was,
Oh yeah.
and talented as hell.
And
Talented.
still is.
Yeah, and still putting out great work. People have gotten away from him over the years, but if you go back and listen to his later albums, they're still top notch. They really are, and they're singing about things that are happening to him in his 60s and 70s later in life, but just as meaningful.
Absolutely.
So that would be my next effort. What do you have for me?
Um, so out of the three songs that I chose to discuss, the next would be the big one, and that's Doctor My Eyes. And I'm just going to wing this one. I'm just going to let it fly
Yeah,
because this is a
let it go.
song, this is a song when it came out on the FM radio in 1972. I'm a 15-year-old kid, and Doctor My Eyes, it's so upbeat,
Yeah,
and that the drums and the guitar and the vocal, and it just has such an impact. I mean, it was clearly at the time when it came out, it was one of the best songs in the rotation on FM radio.
yeah,
Everybody loved that song. And I still do. And I just, in preparation for this, I listened to all these songs. And man, it's like I heard them for the first time. And Doctor in My Eyes, I really want to touch on one aspect. Jackson's vocals are just so good. And there was a time when he was a kid, he was playing trumpet, and his father didn't think Jackson could sing. He thought he heard Jackson sing as a teenager, and he's like, Jackson, did you see that interview on his podcast where Jackson's dad thought, like, kid, you can't sing. Why are you even trying? But his
mm.
father didn't say it, but Jackson knew that his dad was thinking it.
I
And
haven't seen it.
so,
I'll watch it.
yeah, it's great on his YouTube channel,
Yeah,
Jackson Browne's. Yeah, and so Jackson said he really had to find his voice
yeah,
because he was emerging as a songwriter, and he had to sing. He felt he had to sing. Well, he did find his voice, and he's a stylist just like Dylan. And happy birthday, Bob Dylan, yesterday, 80 years old,
yes,
right? He's a stylist just like the best, but he is a very fine singer. He has a very warm, enjoyable singing style.
sure,
Um, and then Doctor My Eyes has just this great drumming by Russ Kunkel. It's just, that syncopated fill, and he does these triplet fills at the end. And really, I want to talk about Jesse Ed Davis, the
yes,
guitarist. And I think, Rich, you knew I was going to do this because my gosh, Jesse Davis, came from, he was in Taj Mahal's band. He did all that Taj Mahal stuff. And I mean, he's so under the radar. And he passed away a long time ago. And he was right in the thick of all the great musicians. They often, Elton John, Jesse Davis plays on Tumbleweed Connection. Um, but his guitar work, and you really hear his Stratocaster, Tweedy's Stratocaster tone on Doctor My Eyes. To me, it's in the top 50 of all my, I'm a guitar guy, so all my guitar solos, the Jesse Davis's guitar solo on Doctor My Eyes is one of my very, very favorites. And the song lyrically, it's as if he's going to a doctor,
hmm
and now what doctor would sit that long with you, right? More than 15 minutes to listen to you, expound about, the human condition. But
right.
really, that's what it's about. And he uses that metaphor, and I just love the song. If you're not that familiar with it, stream it and listen to it, please, because it's just an iconic song.
It is, and it did very well commercially, which is rare for one of his tunes. My next and last highlight here is the classic "Rock Me on the Water." Now, this is the one that has that definite gospel feel to it. Search for spiritual meaning. It's apocalyptic too, because he's got that lyric, "You're lost inside your houses. There's no time to find you now. Your walls are burning and your towers are turning. I'm going to leave you here and try to get down to the sea somehow." Later in the lyric, it says, "Fires are raging hotter and hotter. The sisters of the sun are going to rock me on the water now." And then it goes into the chorus, "Rock me on the water." And it's very, very spiritual, gospel. It's a sing-along song in the chorus. And there's that theme. You can see the seabird gliding above you like
Yeah.
Jesus in the sky. An
Oh,
image that is,
absolutely.
you know? I love that image. When my life is over, I'm going to stand before the Father, and the sisters of the sun are going to rock me on the water now. Just a beautifully written song, musically fantastic. I believe Linda Ronstadt may have covered it, but this is the definitive version, written by the man himself, Jackson Browne. I just think it's a fantastic song. And if you
Yeah,
haven't heard it, please, this whole first album, give it a shot. Listen to the whole album. I'm telling you, it's genius. It's beautiful.
really
For
is.
a man of what, 23 years old to write
I
this
think
stuff.
so.
I mean, come on. You can't do any better.
Absolutely.
So that's what I've got for that song.
Excellent. So, okay, my third for Saturate before using his debut would be Something Fine. And it's always been a favorite of mine. I'm just so attracted to this song. And, there's a line, and I don't want to start, bluthering and crying, but there's a line in here of Something Fine. And before I read the little passage, David Crosby does the most perfect harmony with Jackson on this song. I mean, it's just stunning. I mean, it's just the two voices, Jackson on his on an acoustic guitar, and it has a very unusual tuning. This is the one, I'm a guitar player. This is the one song that I enjoy playing on guitar, and it has a very it's in the key of G, and it has a very open G, uh, almost an Eastern style modal sounding for the key of G major, and so the line, you guys, it's California shaking like an angry child will,
Mm,
who has asked for love but is unanswered still.
that's it.
And that just that's my neighboring state. I'm here in Nevada, and um, you know, California is shaking right now. I mean, how insightful was
Yeah.
Jackson, what, 50 years ago? I mean, it's shaking, man. And it's all getting shook up, and they're all moving all around. They're moving to Texas, Nevada, and it's such a beautiful state. I don't care what's going on there, how expensive it is or whatever. I mean, New York and California, there's some expensive states,
Yeah,
but California is such a magnificent state. I mean, from top to bottom, west to east, and such a great line. And so Something Fine, really recommend to just mellow out and listen to that track.
absolutely. That's the exact line I would have picked out if I had chosen that song.
Yeah,
That was the one.
yeah,
I had it actually written down. So that's
yeah,
you picked out the right line.
yeah. Jackson's voice actually shakes as he sings that line. It's really wonderful.
All
Yeah.
right, now to wrap this up, other than recommending you listen to the album in its entirety, we're going to each pick out our top 5 songs. JT, you want to go first and run them down?
The top 5.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, number 1, I got to go to what I just spoke on. Something Fine. Number 2 would be A Child in These Hills. Number 3, Doctor My Eyes. 4, Jamaica Say You Will. And 5, I love Under the Falling Sky. Man, that's just a killer song. I highly recommend listening to Under the Falling Sky.
Awesome. My top 5 are going to be a little bit different, pretty much the same songs, but in a different order. I'm going to go Rock Me on the Water, #1, Something Fine, 2, Doctor My Eyes, 3, Song for Adam, 4, and Jamaica Say You Will, 5. And they could be jumbled in any order because they're all A+ songs in my book. So again, this is the album. If you see it anywhere in the stores and you want to grab it, please grab it because you won't be disappointed. So we're going to take a look at another album on another video, but for now, for JT's Record Room, subscribe to him, hit the like button on this video. Let us know in your comments what you think of Jackson Browne. What are your
Please.
5 favorite songs? And we'll be back next time with For Everyman. Take care. Bye.
Right.